This weekend, the army paid tribute to the King in trooping the colour. It was all part of the King's birthday, that is, of course, King Charles III. It was established in the 17th century under King Charles II, and it later became an annual event, and it's got its origins on the battlefield. Trooping the colour ensured the troops knew where to rally in the confusion of war, and the colour, or flag, was the most sacred thing for the regiment, who believed that the colour was imbued with the spirit of those who died, and soldiers fought to defend it. So whilst this was all going on, this poignant ceremony on the King's birthday, who should crop up during this poignant time when all eyes are on the monarchy? Who indeed? Let me give you a clue. She launched a website and jam during the time of King Charles's cancer diagnosis, and whilst Catherine was ill, although at that time it hadn't been confirmed that she also had cancer, the King is famed for his jam. Here's another clue. This time she's launched another jam and dog biscuits on the same day as trooping the colour, the official King's birthday. Yes, you've guessed it, Meghan Markle. I can't imagine any PR company would have advised this. Maybe that's why she keeps going through them so quickly. This is not a good look. I mean, why launch jam and dog biscuits on this day? Unless maybe it's some sort of joke? Ha ha, very funny. Not. I get it. The Sussexes are both just as bad as each other. I mean, they've got everything and could have anything, and yet they are so angry, so very angry. Meghan is married to the son of the King, sport brat Prince Harry. Doesn't get higher than being the son of a king who hasn't had a chance to get to know his grandchildren. Seriously, what has he done to deserve this, and why punish your kids? Harry is lucky, really lucky, first, to be the son of a king, and secondly, to grow up with his extended family around him for support. He got to know his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, whose incredible legacy is an example to us all. He clearly loved her, although I don't get why he couldn't see how miserable he made her last years, poor woman. Same to Meghan, who by all accounts was looked after well by her family. In my view, they're depriving their kids of getting to know their grandparents on both sides, a sort of punishment. They should know better. It will backfire, and if their kids turn out to be as angry as them, God help them. Not sure the King kids will be happy to be pawns in this game. You're a lucky man, Harry. And as for this ridiculous to and froing, suing anyone who dares to say a bad word or no, especially regarding protection, the protection you were given, Harry, is pretty extensive already. You just don't get to be around the ones that carry guns, because we don't carry guns in this country. And at that level, it is solely for the preserve of working royals, which, Harry, you're not. I just don't get it. They're so blind to their privilege. When will they open their eyes to see? This is GBA in America. I'm Nana Akua, and we were blessed with Kate's presence at the trooping the colour. But understandably, she did opt out of the Garter Day service at Windsor Castle. After all, she should be looking after her health first and foremost, and there's no need for her to rush into royal duties. Well, joining me now is Michael Cole. Michael, what were your feelings of seeing Kate back in the spotlight?
Nana, courage is grace under pressure, often defined as that. And I think we saw that with Kate, Princess of Wales, on Saturday. My goodness, it's harrowing enough, difficult enough, coping with cancer for anybody. But for somebody to have to do that, knowing that the eyes of the world are upon her, 1,000 lenses looking at her, at the same time as she's undergoing chemotherapy, preventative medicine for the undisclosed cancer from which she's suffering. What an ordeal. But didn't she carry it off with great dignity and with great elegance and with great stoicism? I come back to the word courage, because not easy to do, and not easy to do while looking so brilliantly beautiful. I use the word advisedly. She looked beautiful. She looked adorable. I mean, if you and I went to a Hollywood casting agency and said, please cast us a princess, Audrey Hepburn and Grace Kelly not being available, they'd come up with somebody like Kate, the Princess of Wales. And in everything she does, she carries it off with great aplomb. And she wasn't brought up to this. She was the child of a middle-class family. She wasn't trained to be a princess of the royal blood. And she wasn't, of course, ever an actress. And in everything that Meghan Markle does, She invites a comparison with the Princess of Wales. And I'm afraid in that comparison, Meghan Markle doesn't come off very well.
Well, it was odd, to say the least, that in all of that she launched dog biscuits and jam, a different flavour of jam. I don't know why she's doing that. I can't imagine any PR company would advise you to do that, because ultimately it will be overshadowed. I think perhaps she thought that a lot of people would talk about the jam and overshadow Kate, maybe, because that's how it feels. It feels like every time there's something really big happening with the royal family, or something where all the spotlight is on the royal family, suddenly Meghan does something, or Harry, or it feels like they're kind of trying to overshadow. That's my view of what happened there. She would probably argue that she should launch a jam whenever. But it does seem a bit of an odd coincidence.
A failure of judgment. I think perhaps somebody ought to tap her on the shoulder in Montecito and tell her that the Duchy of Cornwall, which is owned by Prince William, the Prince of Wales, has been making Duchy original strawberry jam for many, many decades, rather successfully. And you can buy a jam at a well-known supermarket for £2.65, whereas I think some of the celebrity jams being retailed by personalities and famous people in America are being retailed at something like $250 for a starter. So I don't think that in the war of the jams, she's a loser. She's a late starter. And I don't know what she expects to gain by that. Are they so desperate for cash that they have to come out and bring out a retail line of jams and other things which we can all do without? It's a mystery to me. But when you saw Kate and you saw the majesty of the trooping, which we all witnessed on Saturday, very few places, in fact, I've seen ceremonial around the world, no other body of men, no other military squadron could have ever have accomplished what was accomplished by the Irish Guards, trooping their colour before His Majesty the King, King Charles III, and Queen Camilla, who were sitting there on a dais. The King did not ride in his birthday parade. He came by carriage with the Queen, and he reviewed the troops from that carriage. Of course, the late Queen Elizabeth II, his mother, she rode to that parade side saddle for nearly 40 years, 39 years. And it wasn't until 1986, when she was getting on, that she reverted to a small carriage, which we, and I was covering it at the time, we immediately dubbed Queen Victoria's go-kart, because it was quite a cute little carriage that she used in those latter days. But she always rode to it. The King, obviously, also undergoing treatment for cancer, and also very, very pleased, which I think we could see. It was his show, of course. It was the Sovereign's parade, but the star of the show was definitely Catherine, and she looked absolutely ravishing. The gown, I think, was inspired, I think, by Jenny Packham, but it was a very clear tribute to Cecil Beaton, who designed the black and white Royal Ascot scene for the film of My Fair Lady, with Audrey Hepburn playing the role. And if you look at Audrey Hepburn's costume and you look at what Kate was wearing on Saturday, well, it's a delicious steal from one to the other. And of course, the timing is great, because today, Royal Ascot, the 5 days of racing on the Ascot racecourse, which is owned by the King, and where there's been horse racing since the days of Queen Anne, that begins today, with the King and Queen both riding in a carriage up the course with other members of the family in the following carriages. So it's a very busy day, a very busy week for the royal family. And as you mentioned, there was the Garter service yesterday at Windsor, led by the King and Queen, with other members of the royal family, but not Kate. She wasn't there, but Prince William was, and other members of the royal family. It's an interesting service. The Order of Chivalry, called the Order of the Garter, is the most prestigious, the oldest. There's only 24 members of the order, and they are personally selected by the King for their service to the country or service to him personally, plus members of the royal family. It all dates back to King Edward III, and he was at a ball in France, and there was the Countess of Salisbury was there, and unfortunately the lady had a slight accident and her garter dropped to the floor. And the courtiers started sniggering at this, but the king wouldn't have it. He went over, he picked up the garter, and he said in Norman French, "Honi soit qui mal y pense," which means evil be to him who thinks evil of it. And he then wore the garter. He wore the garter ever after, and that is a sign of chivalry and respect, particularly for women, but respect for your fellow men. And it's a very important thing. You and I probably won't be invited to join Nana, but we'd quite like it if we did, to wear those big plumed hats.
Yeah, oh, I'd love a hat like that. Lovely, oh, yeah. And you did actually mention Catherine's dress, and I agree. She looked incredible. But, I mean, she was very brave to wear white, because as a woman, there's no way that, because for me, especially with my darker foundation and everything, I'd be worried of, marking the dress. So she was brave as well to wear white. It's like, that is a show of strength and very, very impressive. But the other thing is, the children were there as well, which I thought was lovely. And what is so nice about that is that you saw the wonderful family, the unity of family, and you saw King Charles and Queen Camilla on the balcony. They're all united, and it really kind of made me think, I do feel sorry for Meghan and Harry's children, that they won't get that contact with their grandparents on either side, which was the point I was making in my monologue.
Absolutely right. Which is a great, great shame. It was very important to the king that there would be a good muster of the members of the royal family on the balcony. But missing were, of course, Prince Harry and Prince Andrew, for other reasons we don't need to go into here. But Prince Harry has gone into self-imposed exile in California with his 2 children and his wife and his rescued chickens. And it's very hard for the king not to see his grandchildren, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. He's only seen Prince Archie on a handful of times, and Princess Lilibet only once. Now, when they were last in this country, in Britain, they could quite easily have had Princess Lilibet christened, baptized at St. George's Chapel at Windsor, but they chose not to do it. And the king, obviously, he's had a tap on the shoulder. He's got cancer. He realizes time is short. And he desperately wants to know his grandchildren. And it's very important that they should get to know him, because the children in California are a prince and princess of the royal blood. They're growing up. If their whole existence is going to be in California once they go to school, and they'll be completely centered there, they'll miss out quite a lot. And I think Prince Harry perhaps is aware of this, because there are stories now that he wants to get a house back in this country. Perhaps there are things about this old land that he's missing. Of course, maybe Meghan Markle doesn't see it that way. But as you say, and I think this is the key point, not only do those children not know their grandfather, the king, they don't know her father, Thomas Markle, either. She is not on speaking terms with her father. She is not on speaking terms with most of her family, apart from her mother, Doria, and I think one niece. Apart from that, she has no contact with them. And yet these two are always going on about their love of the people, the love of the world, spreading health and harmony and kindness and truth. And yet they cannot extend it to their own family, particularly at a time when it would be most welcome, the king himself having his cancer diagnosis and doing what he does brilliantly well, doing his duty out there, leading the family, head of state, commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and we saw the Irish Guards brilliantly on parade, on Horse Guards parade on Saturday. That's his job. Prince Harry would be well placed to take a leading role in all this. The other day, the Duchess of Edinburgh, Sophie, the wife of Prince Edward, went on a trip to Ukraine. And she did very well. And she made a speech and she interacted with the people out there. But that's precisely the sort of job that Prince Harry, with his background in the military, ought to be doing.
Well,
Those
of course,
are the things.
but he has turned his back on this. But maybe the reason he's not come to this country, to the United Kingdom, is because he might argue that he wants the full protection because he's not a working royal, but he should have it. I mean, he's still arguing about that. So maybe that's his issue. But then you never know. He might have to come here because the US government is using a privacy ruling from a Donald Trump case to justify not disclosing details of Prince Harry's immigration status. But that could all change if Donald Trump becomes the president.
Absolutely. There's a pressure group in America called the Heritage Foundation, a right-wing pressure group, and they've been anxious to find out how he completed his immigration form when he came into the country. And they've been pressing the Department of Homeland Security for the release of Harry's documents. Now, President Biden is not keen to see them released, but as you say, were he to become president again, Donald Trump would release them. Now, in America, they take residency and visas very seriously. Of course, they've got a huge problem on their southern border with Mexico, but anybody applying for a visa to live permanently in America and to get a green card has to fill in forms which are very detailed. And if you tell lies on that form, that visa can be revoked. And the key point is this: how did he answer the question, do you or have you ever taken drugs or been a drug addict? And it's a tick, yes or no. Well, if he ticked no, he may be in trouble. Because in his book Spare, a ghost-written autobiography, he talks repeatedly about smoking weed, cannabis. He talks about trying cocaine and not liking it. He talks about magic mushrooms. Now, all of that, and it's time after time, these mentions, all of that adds up to me, a layman. I'm not a pharmacologist. I'm not a law enforcement officer. As sounding like somebody who's got a serious drug problem. Now, America does not look kindly on people telling lies on official forms. Even as a tourist, when you go in, you have to be very careful about what you declare and what you say. And I always have been, and I've visited America close to 100 times. But I always take great care when I answer those forms because they are very, very serious. And when you go through immigration 100%. In America,
they don't mess about there. They don't mess about with that. No, they don't. And the thing is, I mean, he would probably argue that, and I think he did argue, or his legal team said that it's a book, so you're able to embellish, and some of it is poetic license to make stuff up. But the question still remains, and even in some of those documentaries that they did, he talked about taking drugs there or medicines and so on and so forth that probably wouldn't be legal in this country. So I don't think he will. I think if he has lied on that form, he's in trouble, especially if Trump wins the presidency. Michael Cole, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That is the brilliant Michael Cole. This is GBN America. Now, we had Michael Cole there just ending our conversation talking about Harry's visa status and how the American government lawyers used Trump's privacy president to keep his visa application a secret. It also has been said recently that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are reportedly considering easing back into UK residency, especially if Donald Trump is re-elected as the United States of America as the president there. So joining me now to touch on this is the fabulous Lizzie Cundy. What on earth is on your head, Lizzie Cundy?
Well, it's Ascot, darling. I'm in the royal enclosure. I will be seeing the wonderful King Charles and our Queen Camilla later on. And I'm dressed for the occasion, obviously.
You look fabulous, may I say. Fabulous. Now, OK, so I want to start with this question that I asked, whether it's a smart move for Harry and Meghan. It sounds like they're talking about potentially having somewhere to stay or living or moving or in the UK. Now, what do you think about that?
Well, it kind of beggars belief because they were the ones that wanted to leave so desperately this country and have their own life, like eating avocados and yoga on the California beaches and wanting their privacy. And now suddenly they want it back. And this is a big sign that they have lost all popularity in the States. I mean, who would have thought it? I think even Meghan Markle thought she was going to be the next president over there, the way she was behaving and speaking. And sadly, Nana, they've lost faith, they've lost trust over in the States, let alone here. So, I mean, I don't know how they're going to be welcomed back here. I think it's going to be very tricky, but they know the way they make their money is through the royal family, and they've lost everything to do with the royal family. So being back in England is the only way forward. And let's not forget, if President Trump, it could be the possible President Trump, comes into office, Harry could be in quite a bit of trouble.
Well, yeah, and it would be quite embarrassing as well. But, of course, this weekend we had Trip in the Colour, which was amazing. And, of course, in my view, Kate was the star of that show. The fact that she even was able to show up and be there under what she's been going through. And, of course, Meghan and Harry, Meghan launched some jam and dog biscuits. I don't know what that was about.
Yes. I mean, let's just say, first of all, Princess Kate, the whole world was watching to see her, and how incredibly stunning, fragrant, and beautiful did she look. And we haven't seen her for 7 months, Nana. I mean, it's not since Christmas 223. We haven't seen Kate. Where has she been? We've all been so worried about her. And, the sad thing was, I thought, what will Meghan do? We have Kate there, we've been waiting to see her for months and months, worried about her health. And then Meghan, 4 hours before Trooping of the Colour, is launching dog biscuits, which is really something else. Her friend, his name's Nakos Ferreras, who is a polo player, posted about these new dog treats with beige bows, with the Meghan, typography. It was all very Meghan-esque, and as well as her jam, they were posting 4 hours before celebrating King Charles' official birthday, which for me seems pretty desperate.
It seems desperate, and I can't imagine any PR company would suggest that you do that. So I suspect her PR probably said, don't do it. And she ignored them, and you know how she's always looking for another PR because they keep abandoning her, or she keeps firing them or whatever. So she gets through them. Perhaps she just doesn't listen. Now, Trooping the Colour, also known as the King's Birthday Parade, as we know, very successful despite Prince Harry and Meghan not being there. And, of course, it was Father's Day on the Sunday. That must be quite sad. I wonder, we haven't heard any rumours of whether there were any Happy Father's Day messages. I suspect there may well have been. But it is pretty sad, isn't it, that both parts in that equation, Meghan and Harry, are estranged from their fathers, as it were.
Well, yes, they both are estranged from their fathers, and I thought it's very poignant that Prince William sent this beautiful post with him and his father saying Happy Father's Day, just W with a kiss, very simple, but, just shows the bond they have and the respect he has for his father. And there is Harry, very noticeably absent. Let's not forget, this is a 75-year-old man that is suffering with cancer, going about all his duties. There at Trooping of the Colour, he was there standing in the pouring rain, and you just think, wow, this man is absolutely incredible. He is everything, sadly, that Harry isn't. Harry does seem to have lost the plot, and how hurtful indeed not to even send a Father's Day message. I mean, we don't know if he did it privately, but, we think normally, Meghan and Harry are very vocal. They're posting about jam, now going to be dog biscuits. Can't post a Father's Day message. For me, that is unforgivable.
It is a bit, and I don't really understand what it is all about. I wish they would all just kiss and make up, for goodness sake. Life is short, and illness and all sorts of things come in the way, and things that you don't expect, and you don't want to find yourself in a position where you wish that you'd said something and you hadn't. But I thought it was very odd that it seems that Gwyneth Paltrow and Meghan Markle are quite close and friends. I mean, just from what we're getting here. But Gwyneth did post her support for Kate, which is a bit awkward.
Yeah. Well, Meghan Markle wants to be the new Gwyneth Paltrow. She's desperate to be there with this lifestyle guru, being all things cool, being with the new cool jet set in California. The problem is the cool jet set don't want to be linked with Meghan. She doesn't realise what she's done really by slating the royal family, the nasty lies she's told about our Kate and King Charles are just unforgivable. And America actually loves the royal family so much. And I think really Meghan has really shot herself in the foot here. And I think if we, you know, there is no comparison between her and Kate, but then we look at Kate, she's going through chemotherapy, she's suffering with cancer, but there she was looking so wonderful. You know, you saw that a touching side where she was with her children, and there's little Louis who always sort of steals the thunder. What's Louis going to do next? And she you know, puts her on her lap. She's such a wonderful woman, mother, and everything we admire, and she has a real sense of duty. Sadly, everything Meghan hasn't got. And I thought it was really mean of Meghan to even post on this day, to even, you know, dog biscuits, for goodness sake. And she's going on with this brand because she's desperate to be linked with this sort of, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow set, cool set. She, you know, she wants to be the next sort of like the Obamas, but sadly it's not going to happen. And I think slowly they're beginning to realise it. That's why they need to come back to England. But whether they'll be welcomed is another matter, Nana.
Well, she might argue that she's trying to make a living. She doesn't want to sponge off the royal family. She wants to make her own way. And what she says about Kate would be from her own eyes, so her truth, as it were. That phrase was coined during that disastrous Oprah Winfrey interview, which I love Oprah, but this I found slightly unsavoury and almost unforgivable. But yeah, we shall wait and see what happens with all of that, because Trump, the elections in America are in November. And if things go the way that the polling is suggesting, then Trump will be their president. And I think it'll be fascinating to see what happens to the Markles or the Montecito Monas. Lizzie Cundy, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to talk to you. That is the brilliant Lizzie Cundy. This is GB and America. I'm Nana Akua. If you want to find out more, go to gbnews.com/America.